All right. The question is, had a good why conversation, all boxes checked, sent them a proposal, told them I was the expensive option ahead of time. And the response was, price point for this is higher than I anticipated. At a price point of 90,000, I would expect more of a fully developed system. My take, they're thinking cost plus pricing, not the value of what they're getting. Any suggestions on where to go? I don't want to push. I'm fine with moving on. All right, this is a really good question. So when you have a sales conversation, lead comes in the door. What's your hourly rate? I don't have an hourly rate. Is that going to be okay? Well, how do you price your work? I give people project prices so they know how much they're going to spend ahead of time. Things don't go over budget. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, cool. Let's talk. You get on a sales call. They brain dump about the project. They tell you all these things, may or may not be useful, but they get it off their chest. They're done brain dumping. You ask a couple of probing questions, and then when you're ready and you feel like you've exhausted all of their information, you go into the why conversation. Can we back up for a second so I can get a little more context about how this project is going to fit into the overall business? Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that. You say, well, why is this the thing? Why do this? Why not do this? Isn't there another way you could have solved this? And based on the information they gave you in the brain dump, you can probably suggest a few things like, oh, why don't you just modify the system you have? Why don't you keep doing it manually? Why don't you, so on and so forth. And they'll explain why and all of those things. And then you get into the why now questions, and you can, I won't go into the whole why conversation. But when you get to the end of it, you want to have a sense of what it might be worth. You want to know what business outcome they're trying to achieve. You want to know what needle they're trying to move on their business. What's the KPI? What's the leading indicator? Is it can be intangible, but it needs to be something recognizable. Measuring happiness is not something that you can put a specific unit of measure on, but you can tell if someone is happy or not happy. You can tell if someone's mood changes from not happy to happy. It doesn't have to be a tangible bottom line thing for you to be able to measure that a difference has taken place. So even something as intangible as happiness is measurable in the sense that you can see that it changed, and kind of you can see how much it changed. Are they way happier? Or are they just a little bit happier? You can measure this. So you figure out what it is they're going to measure. What is a home run? What would be a disaster? What is that thing? And then the magic part is trying to assign, a value. You're trying to predict what the perceived value to the client would be for that change. That's the tricky part. When you go and put together a proposal, which you've done, and you lay out 3 options, you didn't say you laid out any options, which could possibly be part of the problem here. But let's say I told them it was expensive option. Okay, clarification. I did have 3. And which one of the 3 was this one? Top option. Okay. And great. And what were the other 2 prices? Okay, so it's 30K, 60K, and 90K. And they're considering, obviously they are considering whatever the outcome of the top option is, that's what they want, if that's the price they're pushing back on. Okay, so great. So you offer 3 options and you price them. And you ideally, when you're pricing them, you want to base the price on a fraction of what you predict is the perceived value. That is the trickiest, magicest part of value pricing. That's the hard part. But you do that. And okay, great. You present it to them. In the way I ran my business, I would never, it was too late. When I pressed send, I was like, okay, those are the prices. For those 3 things, that is the price, each one of those individual prices. I will not discount the price. I will not knock it down. I will not change anything about the price for those options, even if I lose the job, because it was one of those slippery slopes for me that if I started negotiating pricing, I'd be dead in the water. I'd be creating a bad client. I'd be creating a client who the next time they needed work from me would owe it to themselves to negotiate the price, because the last time I gave them 20% off just because they asked for it. So you cannot do that. I mean, you can, but it's a bad idea. So there will be 3 reactions to your pricing. They'll either be like, yeah, let's get started. How do I get a check to you? Can we start tomorrow? or that's the whoops, I priced it too low response. Then there'll be the total sticker shock, like you were off by an order of magnitude. Like there's an extra zero on there that they weren't expecting. So then you're like, oh, it's really hard to recover from that because you completely misunderstood, miscalculated something. You're either completely talking to the wrong person, or they are losing money and they seem profitable and they have a lot of revenue, but they actually don't have a lot of profit, or they're in financial trouble. Or you get this middle one where they're like, where the reaction usually is, can you explain how you calculated that price? Because they're kind of like, that's a little pricey. And they're looking for a way to either talk you down, or they're trying to justify that to themselves why it's that expensive. So it could be either one of those. It could just be someone who always asks for a discount. I mean, you haven't actually said the person asked for a discount. They're implying it, but you didn't actually say what they asked. They didn't say, oh, could you do it for less? No ask for a discount. Yeah, they're just putting it out there like, oh, this seems kind of pricey. It could just be a poker player move, like someone who just always tries to get the best price regardless. Okay, so a bunch of ways I would respond to this. Possible, depending on the specifics of the situation. I've responded to this in different ways over the years. One thing, this would be, let's say I really want the job. It would be very profitable at this price for me. Maybe it's been a while since I had to leave, whatever the reason is. Maybe I've got some motivation. I've got time to deal with them. Basically. I could say something like, because they haven't said anything, so you could just reply with a one sentence, what do you propose? And put it back on them, instead of you just like immediately caving on your price. I know you're not going to do that, but in general, instead of immediately caving on the price or offering a discount or anything like that, just be like, well, what do you propose? And now you put it back on them. Now they're making a proposal. And then, oh, okay, you make them get explicit about it. Well, we would do it for 75, and then you can, 75,000, and you say back, well, what do you want to take out of the $90,000 option to meet that budget? Which things in the $90,000 option do you not value that much? And maybe you guys can sort of negotiate a reduced outcomes, decrease the value to decrease the price. Say, hey, I'm happy to work with you on, I'm happy to work within your budget. What would you like to remove from the $90,000 option? What value do you want to take out of there? Like, oh, okay. And now you're having a conversation. This is that kind of negotiation I think is fine. That's not a price negotiation. That's a value negotiation. You're saying, what do you want to take out to find something in between the $60,000 and the $90,000 option? Put it on them to make a proposal. Another thing I would do is say something like, another thing I could do if I was feeling a little feistier and I wanted to just push them, I didn't want to engage in a value negotiation. I just want to say, no, I think that price, basically, if what you want to communicate is $90,000 is totally fair for this. It's ridiculously low. In fact, it's a tenth of what you would hope to gain. You could say something as simple as, I'm surprised that $90,000 seems like an expensive investment for something that, and then you have to say, that is mission critical for your business, or, I don't know what it is, but I don't know what the big outcome or the reason for the project is, but just take it back from the conversation. Like, well, in the conversation, you said that this was mission critical, bet the business project that is going to be a platform for you for the next 10 years. Can you help me understand why you're only looking to invest, $90,000 seems like a very small investment to move toward that goal. Can you help me understand why that budget is so low? That kind of thing. And get into and push them into, basically respond to them in a way that they're probably not expecting. They're probably expecting you to just discount it and say like, oh, well, you kind of like call out the contradiction in their behavior. So you said this was really important, and yet you're not devoting reasonable resources to it. Can you explain that? That kind of a thing. And then probably the most feisty thing I would do is just say like, it's hard because they didn't actually ask for a discount yet. So you don't want to respond to a discount request. So it's hard to say, well, if they had asked for a discount, oh, can you do it for 80? And just say, well, I gave it some thought, but I can't make a business case for that. So, but I'd be happy, so would you like to move forward at 90? If not, I can introduce you to, a junior developer who might be able to fit your budget, something like that. So basically, and again, when I said junior developer, that would be something that they've already rejected as an option in the why conversation. So, I know you said you didn't want to use junior developers for this, but if you've only got 80, then, I could introduce you to some people and you could take a different approach. 90 seems fair to me, basically. Okay, so there are 3 different ways that you could respond to it. Yeah, and in the chat, it's like, no ask for discount. Yes, it is mission critical. Yeah. So that would be my approach. Hopefully that helps.